Again, guys, I strongly suggest you watch the videos I included on the assignments for color bias wheel. After we've tested our watercolors and we've determined our warm and cool yellows, our warm and cool blues, and our warm and cool reds, we need to start labeling our color wheel. Now remember that we're doing a 9-step color wheel as noted on the top, and therefore you need to divide 360 degrees by 9, which gives you 40 degrees. Now, you do not have to be this precise. You can do this using a ruler. You can do it by hand. Just make sure you have 9 little pie pieces. Each primary is going to go next to each other, and there's a particular order they need to go in. So make sure that you follow this labeling system. Notice I have my reds together, but my warm is on the left side. My cool red is on the right side. And therefore my cool blue, after I go from violet, I go to cool blue. And it's because my cool blue and my cool red will make the best or the highest intensity of violet. My warm blue is next, and then green, and then cool yellow is next to green, and that's because cool yellow and warm blue make the best high intensity green. And then I have warm yellow, and then orange, and then back to warm red again, and that's because my warm yellow and my warm red will make the best high intensity orange. We'll get into high intensity and what that actually means, but I think it would be beneficial for you to watch those videos and look at a color bias wheel. I'm going to actually include it here. Let me pull up a little slide. Okay, we have a picture of a color bias wheel, and I like this color wheel illustration the best because it shows you the amounts, not in exact amounts, but amounts of other colors that are beneath your primary. So for example, I'm doing my cool blue right now, my violet blue, and it has underneath it some violet and green. Underneath that blue, there's violet and green. Now compare that with our warm blue or the green blue. There's blue there, but look at how much green there is compared to the violet that's hiding underneath it. And that's why it's biased towards green, and that's why it's considered our warm blue. Whereas the cool blue has more violet in it than green, and it's considered our cool blue. It's biased towards violet. Now look at the rest of your primaries. The yellow, the cool yellow has a lot of green in it underneath that yellow, and so it's biased towards green. The warm yellow or the orange yellow there has a lot of orange in it, so it's biased towards orange or the warmer colors. We have our warm red, which also has a lot of orange in it, so it's biased towards orange. And then we finally have our cool red or violet red, which is biased towards violet. I like this illustration because it kind of illustrates the effectiveness of what is considered high intensity secondary colors, right? And we know what we need to mix together. So if we want a strong high intensity violet, we're going to use our cool blue and our cool red. If we want a high intensity green, we want to mix our warm blue and our cool yellow. And if we want a high intensity orange, we're going to mix our warm yellow and warm red. I want us to explore this and really nail this kind of theory down because it will make mixing colors, custom colors, a lot more effective and pleasant and less frustrating. And I think that's the key here, is frustration, trying to overcome wasting paint out of frustration because you don't know what you're doing or what's happening. So let's keep going. So we have our primaries laid out, and let's go back to the color bias wheel, and look at those examples, because we're going to be mixing secondaries. I'm laying down some warm blue. I'm trying to get a high intensity green, and so I'm going to need my cool yellow. Notice I'm dipping into some fresh water there after I've cleaned my brush, and going into some cool yellow, and I'm going to mix it directly into that little palette there. And notice how vibrant that green, that reaction that we get for that green. Making sure I get a good mix, twisting in my brush. I'm not mashing my brush. And now I'm going to lay this color down. Now, if you're trepidatious at all, or you don't know what you're getting, do it on a little test portion of your paper just to make sure. But this is what I consider a high intensity green. I would almost say it's edging towards yellow green instead of a really deep dark green, but it's still pretty good, I think. Still vibrant and light and still warm. So I think we did our job. Let's move on to the other two secondaries. So I'm going to mix my cool and my cool blue and my cool red and another little paint well there. You can use your plastic bag if you want to use your plastic bag with a white sheet of paper in it so you can see the color better. You can use the palette attached to your watercolor palette to mix your colors. Just make sure to always clean these out because they get kind of messy if you ignore them. So be patient. Look how vibrant that violet turned. Remember, if we look up in our little illustration, both of those have a strong violet amount of violet in there. So they're going to make our high intensity violet. And look how well that turned out. That is what I would consider a strong violet. When we get into low intensity secondaries, you'll see a big difference between high intensity violets or high intensity secondaries and low intensity secondaries. Okay guys, I think you've got a grasp on it. Let's continue with this and move on.